and with this video I'm going to introduce you to Guan Yu. He's one of the warriors that's available in the free rotation, and as such he's a common selection for players that are new to the game. My videos concentrate on the casual gamer, meaning not only what their desire for, at a competitive level is, but also the modes that they're playing in. Most of the videos that you find online are really directed towards pro players and competitive mode conquest play, ranked or even at the SPL tournament level where they're playing to win real prize money. That's not my audience. That's not my expertise. I would be misleading you to say that these builds would be good in that environment, but they're excellent for players that are getting used to a new god or goddess and want to flourish as they play regular clash, regular arena, regular joust, or even siege. So with that in mind, let's kick it off with Guan Yu. Guan Yu is a physical god. He is a warrior, and we're going to focus this video on really the ability builder and the item builder. And I'm going to try and make this one shorter than the others, so let's get into it. You want to go into the ability builder before you play this guy, and you want to not only read each one of these things, but you want to set it up so that the console is automatically advancing your level for you, so that you don't have to stop every time you gain a level and say, oh, which one should I advance, and make poor choices there. Hey, even if you do want to manually do it, here you're going to see my thought process on a good sequence to level his abilities. I think that this is a strong choice. I'll just point out that I start here. I then have you pick up your dash. Then you come back here. The reason I do that is so that you can be a little bit more effective at clearing some of the enemy minions early. Then you're going to go ahead and pick up your team heal. Well, your self heal and your team heal. Then you're going to pick up your ultimate. And then we're really going to come back, finish up this whenever we can, filling in with your ultimate, or I'm sorry, with your heal when you can, not your ultimate. And only after you've fully leveled up your 3, or the ability that you'll get with your circle, and your heal, will you come back and start to pay attention to more dash and more of your ultimate. And why is that so? Well, so for 2 reasons. A, his ultimate is great. And I'm certainly not going to disparage those who want to level it earlier, but I will point out that even though the damage gets higher, the slow does not, the boosted CC doesn't gain as you gain more and more points to this skill. It's only damage. And for an ability that's going to be on cooldown for 90 seconds versus things that are coming off every 15, every 12, and 12, you're going to be casting these much more often than your ultimate. So that's the first reason. Why did we focus your dash below the others? Well, again, for the same thought process. Hey, there's a slow on this, but putting more and more points in this skill isn't increasing the amount of slow, and it's not decreasing the amount of cooldown. So they take second fiddle to the other abilities. I didn't mention this in my previous videos, but when you're looking at gods and goddesses and you're looking at each one of their abilities, pay attention in the damage line, or really to any line, if there's a parentheses plus X percentage of your power. That's often referred to as your scaling. And if you're seeing, 30s, 40s, 50s, even 60s, it means you should not overly focus on power, but you need utility, you need armor. Your emphasis needs to be elsewhere. That's not the primary purpose of your build. So with that said, let's get into the builder. Now, Guan Yu is really interesting because I have 2 different builds for him in the same template. So you get to be in a nice point that once you set this up, when you go into the store, if you come in and you populate this as I'm about to show you, you'll see all of these lines down to the relic, and you get to make your choices. So let's talk about those choices and why I have them going the way I go. And let's start with the very first item. Unfortunately, I have to pull it off the build just to come back in and let you read it. I'm going to start you with Watcher's Gift, and the reason I'm doing that is a boost to your health, a boost to your protection, a boost to your mana, and a boost to your healing and gold. Yes, it's more important in Conquest, but you know what? I feel that it's still relevant here. If you wanted to go ahead and put up War Flag, I wouldn't argue with you, but I think that this one is, for me, the nice, safer choice as you're getting used to the god. All right, then we come down to utility movement, and we come down and look at any one of the boots, and now I can scroll across them. You really have three choices here. I had you taking Warrior Tabby. You get the most damage from this, the most power, so that scaling issue that I was talking about. Excuse me for coughing during this video. But I think it's certainly very viable to go ahead and be more defensive and build some reinforced greaves instead, or even to help your money curve and your health regen when you're outside of combat by taking Talaria. So I'm going to say that newer players want to feel like they're getting some damage out there, so that's what I'm putting there. Excuse me again for this cough. I'm going to take something to drink. So next in the list, I have you take Chalice of Healing. And I know that you're already a healer, but remember, I didn't have you start the healing right away. I don't want to get you into a point where you have problems. You know what? If you want to take the regular potion instead and gut it out, that's fine. But the regular potions cost 50 a pop, and the chalice costs 300 and give you 3 uses for the same amount of healing. And once you go back to the fountain, it refreshes. So in the long run, you'll get more healing potions. And as you're figuring out your god, you tend to be a little bit more sloppy with your health. When should I run? When should I pursue? So start with the Chalice of Healing. Once you've played them a couple times and get more used to them, switch to just, say, 2 healing potions instead. So let's pretend that you are a little bit more used to it, and we'll go ahead and do that. And then I have you taking 1 mana potion. And the mana potion is just there for contingency's sake, to say, boy, I would have been able to heal my ally and save his life, but I had just run out of mana. Well, you can prevent that if you see this big brawl is happening under their tower, under your tower, and your mana is starting to get low. Go ahead and chug a potion so that you can help you and your team out. And then the only other item that I have as core is Breastplate of Valor. I'll show you where you choose that. That's going to be under defense. Yeah, see it right away, but it's a physical defense item, and there it is. I have you going Breastplate of Valor because it's very versatile. It gives you a very good starting level of protection. Yes, there are items that have 80, but this gives you a good amount of protection. It gives you a mana boost, which lets you cast your abilities more times before you have to come back to base and recharge or get a blue buff or take blue potion. So that's important. It's also increasing your MP5, your mana restore. You're going to get 10 more mana every 5 seconds just by wearing this. And last but certainly not least, you need cooldown with Guan Yu. You want to be able to spam your heal and your assault to where you're spinning your blade around, your glaive or whatever it is. So I think that's the end of the core, and then we start to look at situational stuff. Before we get into situational stuff, just following the same template order that I'm always advising folks, I then, after the core, start putting my relic choices. I don't think for Guan Yu there's any real choice. You've already gotten escape off your ultimate, but go ahead and grab Purification anyway, and go ahead and grab Aegeus. You can, of course, find all of these in here. but I think those are the safest two choices, and not only for beginning play, but right through to very competitive play. Yes, there are some other viable choices, but these two will always be relevant, at least through patch 4.10, which is the middle of June for console. All right, so after my relics, I always list what my conditional or counter build items are. You can really put these items in any sequence and you would be fine. But if you don't want to have the thought process involved, just build them in the order I listed them. And you know what? You'll be in pretty good shape. When you're ready to sell your starter item, you'll be able to do that. You'll get 555 gold back. Of course, I'm not in the store, so I don't have that option there. So I had to get rid of it. And then you would complete your build like that. So that's one way. Then I have your B build. So here's your A build up here with a whole bunch of contingency stuff. Let's talk about what each of these contingency items are. This is the cloak that gives you 40/40 protection. You can find it under defense magical. Gives you crowd control reduction, gives you cooldown, just great all-around cloak. This is the Gauntlet of Thebes, and you can see I have both iterations of the build using this. Let me point out where that is. So the cloak, just come down to any of the cloaks and then find this one. So that's the one that I had there. And then there's this one. I had the Gauntlet of Thebes. It's under defense health. Whoops, one above. This is giving you and your team 20 additional protection, plus it's giving you health and health regen. Auras, just so that you know, affect the user as well as all allies. In other words, once it's on and you've spawned, it says you are an ally, and so I'm going to give this to you as well because you are within 70 units of the person that's wearing it. And you'll know that to be true by seeing the little gauntlet aura above your life bar, which you will have if you build it. The next item that you're going to build, we're continuing our theme of being tanky with cooldown so that you can hit your abilities off. You can have real lane presence by having your health and mana restored and having a good buffer, and by having cooldown. So here you're going to get magical protection for you, magical regen, cooldown, crowd control reduction. So that and the cloak will get you to the maximum crowd control reduction. If you bought the boots, the defensive boots, you'd overcap. But there are other reasons and benefits, so it's not a horrible choice. And it has a nice aura for the more aggressive physical folks that are using auto attacks. By increasing it by 25, your hunter will love you if you in fact build this. And your attacks will be 25% faster. So pretending we just keep them in this order. And then Hawk, what's this last cloak? Well, this last cloak doesn't get a lot of love, but I think it is very friendly for the starting players. And it's friendly because it combines the synergy of increasing your protection as well as health. So you're starting to reduce the amount of damage that they're doing by increasing protections, and then you're increasing the amount of health simultaneously. It's like the double nightmare for them. So if they're reducing your physical protections, you still have a lot of health. If they're using things that do damage based on your health pool, well, they've still got to cut through your protection. So you're making it much harder to burst you down. Lastly, it has a wonderful passive. Hard crowd control effects are all those things that really lock you down and spoil your fun and lead to your death. Ares chains, Hades ultimate, so Ares ultimate, Hades ultimate, all of that nonsense. This will instantly get you out of it, and you'll have 1 second of crowd control. When you put this on, you'll have a bubble that you can see around you, your allies can see it, and your enemies can see it. That means it's active. If it disappears, it's because somebody hit you with crowd control and it's on cooldown, but it will be back in 70 seconds. So a lot of good things here. We cap out your cooldown. We've given you lots of health. we've given you lots of protections, and we've helped your allies by having some aura-based items, so very viable. The only change in the B build is I go a little bit more damage in sacrifice of survivability and what you're bringing to the team. So let's go through those choices. So under defense health, in the same tree as Thebes and some of these other items that are very common, like Stone of Gaia, is Shield of Regrowth. Shield of Regrowth is just the other way that I'm getting you cooldown in this tree. It's health, it's regen, but since I know your heal is on very quick cooldown, it kicks off this passive very readily. So you're going to get 40% movement speed buffs like perpetually for 4 seconds. So by the time this cooldown is there, you're going to be able to cast your heal again at the levels of cooldown that I got you. And so that has two purposes, right? It means that you can chase down enemies who are trying to run away. Like, hey, you're not going anywhere. I'm super fast. Plus, it lets you have more escape potential. And so you have escape potential through Guan Yu's ultimate. You have escape potential through increasing your movement speed. And this is doing both of those. So that's one. Forsake the cloak above. I still have you going. I don't know why I deleted that. It's the same item, Gauntlet of Thebes. So again, a little bit of that team health, team protection and health and protection for you. Nothing wrong with that. And then the last two items are bringing in a little bit more damage. So if you built this, why is it not letting me select them? All right, well, my console is freaking out, but this has 40 protection and 40 power, and this has 35. So let's take a look at them. Under offense, actually, you know what? There's a faster way to find it for me. Go to here. I have you build Runeforged Hammer first. It's cheaper than the second item that I'm going to have you build, which is right here. So that's one reason that I have you building it first. It hits for more power. That's the second reason. Plus, it's passive. You already have a slow in your kit, so you're going to be able to proc it with either your ultimate or your dash, if I'm not mistaken, has this slow. So once you've hit them with that, you're hitting for 15% more damage from either abilities or your auto attacks. So you can see when it doesn't activate. And then lastly, the Frostbound Hammer, so that every single time you hit them with an auto attack, you're slowing them. Plus I gave you some health there. Both very viable ways to go. Both completely acceptable. The nice thing is you won't have to choose. If you set up the template this way, each and every time you go into the store, you will see all of these things, and you know that my advice was simply to build left to right. And with that, I'm going to end the video, and thank you. Please click the like and subscribe. Keep in mind that this is for the casual gamer. I mentioned the modes. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to message below, and I'll do my best to respond. Thank you, and goodbye. No.